Like I've been using it for 6.5 years. So it is great. I'm hoping that we're live. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be wanting to go. I'm going to actually check something
It
here.
says waiting to go live at the bottom of mine, but
I know. It's countdown. I'm sure. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Pure Guidance. We're a purpose before profit group that helps early stage startups, and we'll even talk a little bit about that today with Dawson. But first of all, I just wanted to give a big thank you to everybody who reached out for me about my dad passing away. It's been a tough time, but the support of our community, the tech community in Alberta and Saskatchewan, Western Canada, has been fantastic. Thank you for all the nice notes. We're doing well. We have a lifetime of great memories, and I really do appreciate it. And my mom and my brother and I went out and did some great things, and we're excited about that. But again, everybody grieves in their own way, but asking for help is not a sign of weakness. So if you're a startup out there and you need some help, Pure Guidance, you can come in, Osler, us, get some advice, do some great things. And that kind of leads into, the conversation that we're going to have today with Cubbi and Dawson. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Jade. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm going to tell you, I know I say this a lot, but this is so long overdue. And bringing that, that little intro to saying, we met so long ago. Like, you were a student at the University of Saskatchewan. You reached out. We had some great conversations when your company was, really, really early stage, called Arctic Shelf. And I know we're going to get into this. And I know you've been you've had an incredible journey. But, before we start, why don't you talk about your journey into entrepreneurship and how you came up with the idea for I guess now Cubbi.
Yeah, yeah. It's been such a journey. I know, like when I was first starting the company Arctic Shelf, it was an idea that I had. It was in university, and the original idea was actually mini fridges for students. So I was working at a oil and gas company in downtown Calgary, doing internships. You want to work late and press the boss, this and that. And so I actually found it a struggle to keep food at work. It'd get to 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and I was just starving. So I started to keep food in this fridge at work. And then when I came back to university for my third year, I realized that, like, hey, wait a minute, like every workplace has a fridge except the university. And so I missed the ability to just leave things and access them when I want. So had this idea. And it's funny, you mentioned about like how did you kind of get started and think about it. I actually, it's when I reflect on that time, I feel that, especially in Saskatchewan, Alberta, and when I was in finance and business school, entrepreneurship is very, I think, underserved and very underthought. It wasn't really on anyone's radar. Everyone wanted to do investment banking or finance or other things, and so it was a pretty interesting kind of journey into it. It wasn't something I wanted to do. It kind of picked me, and then I had a class in university that I was able to work on the business, and I think that's just where I fell in love with it. Like, I'm a finance person, so I love building up my models and thinking through it, running different scenarios. And I just fell in love with it. And you fell in love with it when you're just making any excuse to work on it. So I was not studying for other classes. I was doing everything just to kind of work on this project. And I knew right then, and like I kind of just, it picked me, and I just kept going with it. So yeah, kind of an interesting journey.
It is an interesting journey, and I mean, obviously, we're both Saskies, we're both Rider fans, we both say senior hockey. We had mutual friends when we first met, and things along those lines. But I thought that was really interesting. You said it chose me.
Mhm.
Like, I always think that the best ideas come from when people are sitting there and going, "Oh my God, they're working in something," or they see something and there's a problem there. So, when you said that it chose me, let's expand on that a little bit more. Like, what were the next steps after you said, "Oh, boom, I have this idea. What are we going to do?" Where did you go from there?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, and I'm just reflecting on it as I'm talking. But I feel that really, like, even just having gone through it now so much, like it gets so hard and there's so many challenges you have to overcome. I think, like, it starts from a place of pure joy and just happiness and excitement. And so it wasn't like I was looking for an idea to start a company. I started working on something. It was on the side and I really liked it. And then I just kept thinking about it 24/7. And I was just like, oh, well, what about this? What about this? Well, what if we had this pricing, or what if we changed this? And you start turning the knobs in your head. And then immediately the first thing I would do when I thought of something is I'd go to the model and I'd play it out and okay. And then it kind of becomes consuming in that sense where you just like fall in love with it, and it's very innocent in the first days. Like you're not trying to do something. I didn't. It was actually really interesting. Maybe it was just because I went through business school and everything. The first time I heard entrepreneur, I actually didn't like it. I thought of like I thought it was like something like the social media people where it was like make money while you sleep, and it had a weird connotation to me. But now obviously it's now that going through it's a badge of honor. But I was like, no, I'm more of a business person, not an entrepreneur. But now I'm on the other side. But it was just really interesting in that sense.
No, I think that is interesting, right? Everybody,
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it goes hand in hand. And I mean, I think that's some of the, being a business person is being an entrepreneur, being a small business owner. I mean, that's some of the issues that I have in today's world. I mean, obviously when you start a company, you have visions of it being a unicorn and selling, and I look at Easy Ops just sold theirs, and congrats to them and their team for exiting their company here. But I mean, you're growing your business and bringing it and supplying and hiring people. I mean, you're doing a lot of great things for the local economy, whether it be in Sask or here. So, I mean, do you think yourself as an entrepreneur? Do you think yourself as a small business owner right now with visions of being a unicorn?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think in the beginning, that's where it was kind of interesting. I was trying on, I think maybe when I mentioned that comment, it's more on the fact that it was just so raw, and like I didn't nearly know as much about the ecosystem or everything as it is now. I didn't even really know much about VC. I didn't know a ton of things, and so it was very innocent when we first started. I think now, like we seeing it, and we've got 30 people on our team now. I think like it's just like we really believe we got something big, and so we're just super excited about it. We really think that we're going to change food services for a lot of businesses. It's super genuine, and I can go into the Cubbi and all that kind of stuff. But I think right now, absolutely, we want to build $1 billion company, and that's what we're trying to do. And I think that we've got a really good opportunity, and I think there's a really good opportunity to help the local ecosystem in that sense as well.
Well, and I love that, and I think that's a perfect segue into talking about Cubbi and what you do. I mean, you started off, you said, as doing something for university students. So, at what point did that say, okay, well, maybe this isn't going to work, or maybe it's too difficult, and then why did why and when and how was that decision made to evolve the company?
Yeah, so the first year and a bit was just kind of building it. These fridges, I found some from China, so we bought them, brought them over here. Just some family and friends. I think we raised like $15,000, got some of them, brought them over here, outsourced the app, like the initial app development, and it barely worked. Like it was like $10,000, I think, for the iOS, the Android, and the entire backend, and it barely worked. But the thing is we launched the business on February 24th of 2020. So it was like 2 weeks before COVID hit. And so we had 200 students sign up in the first 8 hours. And it was just like this really big wave. We're like, wow, this is sick. And then 2 weeks later, we were shut down from COVID. And so that was an opportunity where we were just, I was still in university at the time. And so I spent some internships in Calgary. And so I thought, wait a minute, like all of these businesses have fridges, but no one's ever built a fridge for the workplace. They're all residential fridges. If you think about it, there's something that you'd see in your home that's just put into a business. Maybe we can build the first fridge for businesses. And at the time, the COVID was like just much more rampant than it is obviously now, and the sensitivity to it was much higher, and sanitization, and everyone thought the world was going to be completely different forever. And so we thought that, well, what if everyone had their own individual little mini fridge at work that they could store their stuff in? And so we put them into some businesses, and we had these staff members using it, and we had this daily active user base of customers touching our app because it was open via an app every time they were hungry. And so we looked at that, and there was a lot of restaurants, local restaurants, that were going through pain. And so we thought that would be a really good opportunity to help, these local restaurants get access to the corporate market through our app, because unlike a typical food delivery platform where maybe a user comes back, once a month or whenever, that occasion comes up, they're using our app every single day. And when they're hungry, so we had this scatter plot of when they were getting hungry. And so we could then use those moments when people are hungry and using it frequently to then sell food. So we tried that, and that's where we got the most amount of traction. So we dropped the storage and have really doubled down on the food side of things.
And that was, I remember you telling me about that and talking about that. And I thought that was such an interesting concept, right? I haven't been in an office, environment for a very long time, but I know my wife is, and they sit there and go, yeah, people just put little masking tape and write, please do not touch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Seriously.
And you see tons of crap on TikTok about people planting things because there's someone stealing their nice lunch. And I love that little idea. So as you pivoted to that idea, and there's obviously a lot more people doing kind of food delivery and things like that. So why don't you explain how your process works now?
Yeah. And before I explain how the process, just for the listeners and everyone, when this was just an idea on paper, I think it was maybe even before we launched at the universities, that's where I first met Jade. And so he was one of the first guys that I had met who really helped me think through a bunch of things. So Jade, it's long overdue saying thank you, but you really helped me put a lot of those pieces together. But yeah, I think as far as like the process of making the pivot, the first things first is like we had the data point that this could work, and we executed the first step. We built the initial product, even though it's very different than the product today, and then we raised some angel money off of that, and then we went to market. And I was a university student or just finished, and so my living expenses were extremely low, and so our burn was very low. But what we didn't, and we were just the most energized I think we've ever been. But it was in COVID. And so we'd call all these businesses saying, hey, we've got this product, and, they say, this is amazing. We really like it, but we don't know when we're coming back, or even if we're coming back, or if we're going to even be in the same space, we might be moving spaces. So call us in 6 months. And so I think that, I heard this from another entrepreneur, but they said, everyone can look at your company and say, wow, you've grown a lot, you've done so much in this amount of time, you've scaled, but people forget that it's the day by day, minute by minute grind of it for like years. And so like the minute by minute grind of it for a very long time, like through COVID it was really slow. And, but again, I actually thought it was probably the best time, because you have a very small customer base. And so, as you get more customers, we have like 10,000 users on our app now, hundreds of businesses, and there's problems, there's people having issues, there's things that come up, people want to move things around. There's just running a business. And so then it takes more of your time. And so I think the beauty of those early days is you don't have a lot of that. And it's just almost just open field, and you can think through everything, you can do everything. And so I thought that was a really special time. But we thought through the business a lot during those days, and that's where we just thought through it. And there's some really interesting pieces there. I don't know if I should pause here, but I think the early insights, again, because I was a finance background, looking at the business, was we just thought about, we have this distributed network of pickup infrastructure, in the sense of fridges. And then we started to put the pieces together of how we could deliver food. And what we discovered is that actually having this off-peak delivery where you can have one driver drop off hundreds of meals in a route, radically reduces delivery expenses. So in some of our cases, like the delivery cost per meal is about 15 to 25 cents, which is like sometimes 20% or 20 times cheaper than typical food delivery apps. So I think that there's it was really compelling. We were looking at running the numbers, running the models. And I was like, that's really interesting. And again, the insight was that if you disconnect consumers from fulfillment, meaning that Jade, if I'm delivering food to you, I don't have to meet you to deliver food. And I can deliver it at say 10 a.m. and you eat it at 12, you can radically reduce delivery expenses. So I think it actually just came through just thinking through the model, putting the numbers together, and then creating a thesis, and then eventually validating that thesis.
Awesome. And for anybody that wants to check it out a little more, you can head to their website. It's in the comment section. Just click on it, cub.bi.
Yeah.
And you can reach out if you have any more questions, if you're a business or just inquiring. So
Yeah.
so when you kind of did that, you're talking about, now you kind of have that. I want to talk a little bit about the fridges and things like that. Like, you had the hardware, you had the software, you had everything. What was that process like as you're making that transition into what you are today? What have you learned? What have you done? Explain that process for I mean, you're learning as you go, and this is something I think is very important. You got your product out there when you were, in university. You got punched in the face a little bit. You turned it into a positive to learn a little bit more about your company during COVID. You pivoted, but you were learning as you were going, and that's, I think, something that people don't realize is get your product out there, see what the people want, see what the market wants, and then take it from there. So I love the way you did this, and I am a huge fan of yours and what you've done. So I would love to know your train of thought and your,
Yeah.
why you kind of did things and the way you did.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, and it's something that, I take time to just reflect, but it's not something I can synthesize super well. But when I just think about it, I do think that, you know, when you're just so limited on time as a startup, and so you have to make decisions and you have to move quickly, and you do that with trying to know just to have the best information that you have at the time. And so there wasn't typically a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I wish we would have done that, I wish we would have done that. And because, like, I think, you just, if you trust yourself, you're trying to make the best decisions at any moment in time. And but there is the hardware, the transition away from hardware. We tried to make the best decisions we could. And I remember in those early days, the pivot, you can say, yeah, you're going to pivot, you're going to change your business, but especially when you're a new founder and you're younger, like I was 22 when I started it, and like you don't have a lot of reputation, you don't actually have any work experience really, other than a couple internships. The people that the initial angel investors, I mean, they were actually really, really good to work with, but your family, I think they were actually the hardest, because, they're with you every step of the way. And they, more than maybe sometimes I remember my dad when he first heard it. He's, as soon as I told him about it, I had a logo. It's his iPhone background, and he's just like, "Oh, this is so awesome, good job." But he almost gets the hat, puts the hat on, and sees the vision of where you're going. Just as much as you are, especially in the early days, you're bouncing ideas around. And then when you want to pivot, it's like, I'm not sure. And so my dad's one example, but there's other people, they're just like, I don't know if that's the right idea. And it's actually quite hard, I think, to make a gut call and say, I actually think we got to move a different direction, especially when you don't have a lot of credibility in early stuff. So I think it was just thinking through it, trusting your gut, and then looking at the data. And at the end of the day, like, you got to make tough decisions. And at the end of the day, it's on your shoulders. So I can maybe I'm getting a little bit away from the question. I just am kind of just explaining what it was like going through those moments. But
I love it.
But yeah, I do think, like, looking at it, the one thing that we probably could have validated earlier was the hardware. So the hardware, the fridges, they're these custom fridges that we got from China. It was in 2020. Obviously, everyone knows, like, geopolitics and shipping with COVID got crazy. So we decided, and I actually had some contacts in Mexico. And so we built a contract manufacturing a situation in Mexico. There's a contract manufacturer that was just starting up. We were their first product, and we basically built the whole plant with them. And the idea is we could get control over the supply chain. We'd have 3 routes to ship it up here. It made a lot of sense, assuming that the hardware was going to be really important. And at the time, COVID, like, we didn't know how sensitive people were going to be to germs and things like that. So having the individual security was really important. And so we just tried to make good decisions at the time. Now it's like the fridge is kind of a means to the end. It's actually more of the food program that people want. So we have, like, little mini fridges that we just buy off the shelf that we use for people. And it's now that works, I just like looking at the hardware that we have. I'm like, but it is what it is.
Well, I think, I mean, and I love the fact that you're sharing that you're vulnerable and putting it out there, right? I mean, everybody goes out there, makes a few mistakes, and that's how you learn. I mean, you learn, you pivot, you move on, and that's just the way it is. And you can't delve into the mistakes. If you're down it, you're going to go crazy. Like, you'll never be a successful entrepreneur if you sit there and ponder on, what if, or why did I do that? Oh my God, I wasted that money. You know what? Move on, move forward. And I mean, I think obviously that's something with, you as a person, you as a leader, you as a entrepreneur have been able to do.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with that anymore. And I think like that's just typically like this is a moment of reflection, but I typically don't really we learn from our mistakes and we write things down. And I have my partner that I work really closely with, and we're just always talking all the time. You're like, yeah, should have got that one right. Or there's been times where we look each other in the eyes and we're like, hey, if that happens again, like, let's just, bring it up. There's been some situations with people where like, hey, we let that draw on too long. If I say that, let's keep each other honest here. And so I think, you have people that you can learn with, but I agree with you. I think that, it's such a fast moving environment and there's so many things that change and there's so many things that go wrong. You have to be able to operate in a tightly constrained, high pressure environment and have a smile on and love it. And I think that's what obviously is the game.
No, absolutely. And I love it. And I think it's great. And I mean, moving forward, I mean, so now that you're out there, your team is growing, you've got your plan, you've got your tech ready, you've figured out your hardware side. So what type of clients are you working with? What type of people are you looking to do business with? Is it any industry? Is it smaller? Is it larger? Fill us in a little bit about that, your clientele.
Yeah, I think there's two parts of that answer. I think that there's what we need to make the business work, and then there's just what we're seeing. And what I mean by the first part is that we're a networked product. And so anyone that deals with networks and marketplaces knows that you need a supply and demand equilibrium to execute the business well. You can't have a great food delivery product with two vendors, and you need solutions and options for a lot of different segments of people. So you need a lot of vendors, but then to make those vendors happy, you can't have two businesses. You need a wide range of businesses. And so because of that, what that means is that we have to, in a certain marketplace, we have to widen our aperture and widen the amount of businesses and the segments that we go after, because we need businesses. It's not a B2C product where anyone can order our food. I mean, we have some catering stuff, which is in that sense, but in the beginning, it was a B2B product. And so for us to bring on demand for our vendors, we had to go through an enterprise motion to close a business. So we were really constrained on the demand side because we had an enterprise motion that slowed down our marketplace. And so what we did, we said, hey, if anyone wants to be, we had a pretty wide, we need a wide range of businesses that can go for us. One thing so that's like the first part of it, is that there's certain constraints that we have a business. We can't say that we serve 50 to 100 person law firms across the country, because we can only sell to the marketplaces where we have an operational footprint. So we have to widen our demographics quite a bit. But on the other side, I think it's the customers that are really loving us. And I think the customers that we've done really well with, it actually is very much psychographic. So we have an 18-person or 18-person engineering firm that subsidizes food for their employees, and they're one of our better customers. We have EQ Bank on the higher end of it. They spend $17,000 a month with Cubbi. So we just have this, and they're like 100+ person office. We have Case New Holland, which is in manufacturing for tractors. They have 700 people. We have like Al Anderson, Source for Sports, the little guy from Saskatoon. We have got law firms, financial services. And like where human capital is extremely important to the business. That's typically where we do well, because for those customers, they know that their product is people, and that execution is a function of having great people. But the core thesis for Cubbi is that food is one of the best ways to power performance and say thank you to your team and create a great culture. But it's so hard. Like right now, it's all or nothing. You do catering or order food in. You have to pay for everyone's food, and there's really no lightweight ways to integrate with food or provide food services. So for Cubbi, our light subscription starts at $300 a month, and you get a software tool where you can say, like, Deloitte does 50% off meals on Mondays. Nutrien does $5 off every meal for the first 200 meals each month, as an example. EQ Bank does something different, and I don't know like what I should and should not be saying, but I think those are just use cases where you can create custom situations. Again, Deloitte does it on Monday to help bring people back in the office. So you do 50% off meals on Mondays to help just incentivize people back in. We had Gowling law firm. They did grab and go for after 7 p.m. So after 6 p.m., all the grab and go becomes free. So you can incentivize working late without having like these $20, $30 stipends. And we really focus on meal prep and healthy pre-made meals. We have a lot of really great, quality like restaurant food, but the meal prep is where we do well as well. So I know that's kind of a rambling, but I think it's the psychographics of it. And then within that, the industries that we service and then the number of employees that we serve varies quite a bit, but it depends on the psychographic of the business and what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, there's just a couple points in there that I love. The first one is, the employees are a heartbeat of a company. I mean, if you want to stop somebody from leaving, stop somebody for, food's a comfort thing, right? I mean, I know it, I'm a decent cook, but my wife's a great cook. Our kids know how to cook. And when you're able to have those employees and keep them there and keep them happy and keep them, what's going to stop them from jumping from my company to your company? And it could be something as simple as food.
Yeah, and I think that food is, but it's the means to the end. I think what people don't work at companies to make money; they work at companies to make their lives better. Byproduct of that is making money so that they can feed their families. But I think it's people aren't loyal to companies; people are loyal to people. And so the better culture that you can create. So ZS2, one of our customers, what they do is they do a free meal every Tuesday, Thursday, and anyone can select any food they want from any restaurant they want. And that's the important part is we do one delivery, but you can get 20, 30 restaurants in an order. So if someone wants salads, they can get it. Smoked meats, they can get it. Sandwiches from Spalumbo's, they can get it. They can get like 20 different restaurants, 30 different restaurants in a single order, so that when they eat as a team, they go in the thing and they're mixing the warehouse workers with the office workers. Everyone goes in the lunchroom. And what Meg, ZS2's office manager, says is like, it's a reason for people to get, oh, what did you get? Oh, I should try that. I tried that last time. And it's a reason for people that don't have a lot in common to just have a conversation. It brings people in the lunchroom. It creates some energy. And obviously they leave like more energized, and it creates connections. So food isn't the reason why someone would stay at the company. It's the connections with their coworkers and you're being supported and feeling a sense of belonging in your company. And so there's multiple ways you can do that. But really the whole core thesis is there's not a lot of great ways to integrate and use food to do that. And food, I think, is one of the most powerful tools.
I love it. For anybody who wants more information, just click on the Cubbi website Cubbi website in the comments section. Hey, ZS2, big fans.
Yeah.
Obviously very early investors. Scott, Doug, Steve, their entire team over there is awesome. And they even commented when they said you're coming on. Oh my God, we love them. So
yeah,
shout out to them.
And they're like, that's what I mean. They're just a team that really cares about their people and it shows. Like, I mean, that's why they've grown as fast and as much as they have. We're extremely grateful to all of them for the opportunity. And they actually came in when we were just getting started. And so, I talked with the university when we launched and it barely worked. I don't want to, but we were very close to that when we launched with ZS2. And, that's a part of like working with great ecosystems where people care. And, it's given us an opportunity to improve our product, and I just am extremely grateful for that opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. So this is the big question. You've been growing. You're having people. You got summer interns. You got everything. What's next for Cubbi?
Yeah, I think this is where I just put on my finance hat and just rational hat. Like I think there's a lot of to raise like we're gearing up for our Series A, and to raise a Series A, you need your value chain, and you need a lot of different things in the business working. We have good unit economics, retention, like a lot of really good things. The thing we're looking at is just scaling like sales qualified leads and scaling the sales machine. And so we've launched catering. So that's another thing, and shameless plug. But if anyone ever wants to try it without doing anything, you can actually go to cubbicatering.com in Saskatoon or Calgary. And it's just a $20 flat fee, no tips, no service fees, nothing like that. And you can order any of our food. You can get 20 restaurants in a single order. So people can try it just for $20. But anyway, that's what we're betting on. And so we're just kind of just seeing that out. It's been great. We've got a ton of leads from it. And so we're just working on that final piece of the final Rubik's Cube, as I'll say. And once we get that kind of last piece of the puzzle, then we're ready to start scaling into multiple cities. And so we're just working on that last little piece, just ironing out the business and getting ready to move. And so, yeah.
No, I mean, that sounds great. Anybody wants, I just posted the Cubbi Catering link in the website on the comment section. So click on it there. I mean, I think that's, your expansion plan. What is, you don't have to say it, or if you don't want to, or are you looking North America? Do you think you have something? Let's just talk a little bit long term. Do you think this is something that can be used across, across Europe or anywhere?
Yeah, I think I'm the geographic expansion will be a function of the problem we solve and how big it is. But when I think about it, there's so many. Food is one of the best ways to take care of your team, but it's really hard. There's a lot of benefit packages that have massages, chiro, and monthly or quarterly things that you can use. Food is a daily thing that changes people's lives. And not a lot of people use food as part of their benefit package because it's so cost prohibitive. It's so clunky to implement. And so we want to, our vision is that food should be on the benefit plan of every company in the future. It's $10 a month is where it starts, or sorry, $10 a day is where it starts at to be able to offer this. Obviously, as we get scale and our delivery economics get cheaper, we can even probably lower the price. And there's like some network effects to get it lower. But our vision is that food should be on every benefit plan in the future, over other monthly or quarterly things. And so we think there's a big opportunity there. And so then the market will tell us how big it is. But I think food services is a $46 billion market in North America. It's really made up of enterprise customers. And so there's not a lot of small businesses that can leverage food. And so we really are excited about that. And so when I think about that, that's where we want to go with the product. It's about making the economics work to be able to access those markets. And so that's what we're just ironing out right now is our go-to-market, our expansion plans, the unit economics, all the details of the business model. And once we iron that out, then we can go and launch cities and capture that market demand for, effectively and efficiently. So again, that's just maybe more of my finance stuff, but that's where I think that's what we're just trying to work on right now.
Well, thinking that way is a good thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now that you're getting into your Series A and things about that, I mean, these, getting money from family and friends or getting money from angels that have that belief in you. But now when you get into that next level, you got to understand your numbers, you got to understand economics, you got to have the plan, you got to have the growth strategy.
Yeah.
Like it is different. So thinking about that and planning for it is excellent.
Yeah.
I'm always sad when our conversation comes to an end. And again, this is 4-ish years overdue. But
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched you grow into an incredible young man and an unbelievable entrepreneur and leader in our ecosystem and being involved and being out there. So I'm excited about hearing what your piece of advice is. So Dawson, if you have one piece of advice for a startup entrepreneur or small business, what would that be?
I think assuming that they've already found an idea and that they're passionate about it, I think it's do the work and trust your gut. Like if you like, obviously we're both sports people, but Sidney Crosby, I remember way long ago hearing it's like, how do you get the confidence to do what you do on the ice? And he said it comes from hours and hours and hundreds of hours or thousands of hours of practice. And so that's where I think about every big challenge that we've navigated, whether it be pivoting the business or making a big bet or doing other things. It just comes from doing the work, thinking through it. And then, if I believe the analysis is right, making the bet. And it doesn't mean it always is going to be right. You can't, you just got to learn from those. But I think do the work and think through it yourself and think for yourself. I think being an independent thinker is extremely important. It's probably one of the most important things because, there was another quote, and I'm rambling, but there's another quote that it was, startups aren't supposed to work. And so if anyone on your team doesn't think it's going to work, you need to get rid of them because it's your job to make it work. And so by nature, then I think being, an independent thinker and every person's situation is different. So being able to look at all the data points and make a good decision by yourself. And then if you can go through that exercise, then you're going to be confident. So I'd say that.
I love it. I mean, I think that's perfect. And again, I mean, I've been watching and seeing you, the support that you've had along the way from COLabs in Saskatoon, to going to platform here and reaching out and asking for help as you need it. I mean, it's been you've been doing the right things along the whole way. So I mean, I hope whoever sees this interview, I know it's summertime, but take a gander at it, listen to it. I think, you've shared some great advice, some great insights for a lot of people. And you might not think it, but you are a role model for a lot of entrepreneurs in this community. So as I always say, keep on being awesome. And I look forward to watching what you do next.
Cool. Jade, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And if there's anyone else out there that is going through early stage startup stuff and wants to ask me for any questions or want some help, or, it's just going through the mental side of it, feel free to reach out to me. It's just Dawson, DAWSON @CUB.BI. Would be happy to help anyone, just going through the same thing that we went through.
No, and that's what makes a good Sasky. We're always willing to help.
That's right.
I mean, again, and if anybody needs anything else, like from, at our next event, our peer guidance office hours with Osler is on the 20th. Again, it's free advice. Come in there, talk about anything, talk about product, talk about mental health, talk about expansion, sales, anything at all. That's what it's there for. We're there to share our knowledge and give back. And again, anybody wants more information, just click on Cubbi in the website. And Dawson, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll be crossing paths here soon in person.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Jade. Best of luck with everything. And if I can help in any way, let me know.
I will. And everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. And we will see you next week. Have a great